I've worked in the video production industry for more than a decade, and let me be the first to tell you, there were lots of ups and downs. My early days were mostly spent working extremely hard on projects that didn't necessarily suit my creative interests, and even worse, didn't pay well. To be perfectly honest, the poor pay was largely the result of my lack of knowledge around what to charge and how. And this is, in fact, a very common problem to come up against when you're working independently in any creative industry. As independent videographers, that is, if you're not working for a larger production company, we have a lot of power when it comes to who we work with and what we charge. And that's one absolutely key piece of creating success in your business, knowing what to charge and how. This can be a total game changer. Once you understand how to set your prices appropriately and talk about them with your ideal clients, you'll start seeing a big shift not just in the money you earn, but in the way you carry yourself and the types of projects you're able to pursue. When I communicated my value differently and started to charge more, I was able to not only take home a bigger paycheck, but build my confidence and start working with brands that I was really excited about, like Animal Planet, Discovery Channel, and Airbnb. I see a lot of bad advice out there about how to land clients and how to get these higher dollar amounts. I wanted to make this video to dispel a few of those video production rumors so you can avoid some of the mistakes that novice videographers, including myself back in the day, make. And instead skip right to the part where you're landing better clients who pay you well. Let's talk about a couple of misconceptions and get them out the way. First of all, if you want to work with businesses, you don't need a demo reel. If you want to know more about how to illustrate to potential clients exactly what you're worth, then there are other techniques that really drive home the most important stuff without costing you a lot of extra time and energy. Another bad bit of advice I hear is that you should take what you can get. Whatever work that comes your way to pay the bills. On the contrary, you need to be extremely selective about how you spend your time and resources. And third, despite what people say, you shouldn't ask a client what their budget is. It's important that you learn to lead a sales conversation and establish the value of a project before getting to any discussion over budgets. If you want to find out more about the first two topics, such as why demo reels don't work, check out my earlier videos linked below. Today though, I want to address one of the most common mistakes I see my students making, and that's asking prospective clients what their budget is first. Doing this can in fact hamstring negotiations and cause you to settle for a number that's less than ideal. And here's why. It's a lot easier to go down from a big number than it is to come up from a small one. Here's one way this tends to play out in real life. Recently, a business approached me for some video work, telling me right out the gate that their budget maxed out at $5,000. I knew that if I tried to work around that number, I'd never convince the client to pay more. Instead, I followed the system that I always use to determine the price of a video project and gave them my price, $40,000. Eventually, we negotiated a number that felt good to each of us, which was $20,000. In this scenario, the client felt like they got a major win because they received a $20,000 discount, instead of feeling bad because they were paying $15,000 extra. If you're leading the negotiation conversation, consider asking the client about the scope of their project rather than their budget, and then provide them with a number that's aligned with the content that they'd like to be made. It's empowering to set your own prices, and at the end of the day, it means you bring home a figure much closer to your goal. When it comes to negotiating pay, it's key to advocate for yourself, and you absolutely must be able to ask for what you think's appropriate. To be clear, landing gigs like weddings and low-budget music videos is very possible with demo reels and talking through the client's budget right out the gate. But not all clients are made equal. And you can earn more and often develop a greater degree of creative freedom if you start pursuing contracts with businesses rather than working directly with consumers like brides and grooms. So what's the difference between working on what I call a prestige project, like weddings and music videos, compared to working directly with businesses or B2B? When you're aiming to land high-paying gigs with businesses, I suggest you don't start with budgets and demo reels, but instead by addressing risk and value creation. First, let's define risk. Risk is, at its most basic, the likelihood of loss, liability, damage, or other negative consequences as the result of external or internal operations. Risk, of course, can be mitigated through preventative action. Investing in professional services like video production requires risk on part of a business. They're spending money without the absolute guarantee that it will turn out to be a meaningful investment. When it comes to video production, communicating that your work provides a tangible return in actual revenue is one way to ensure that the perceived risk of working with you is quite low. Think about a major well-known brand like Nike. When they produce a video, they're spending a huge amount of money, and that's including the millions they spend on distribution, like getting a commercial on a major network at prime time. The financial risk that they take on is huge when they invest in this kind of content, not to mention that a bad video could damage their reputation. So how exactly do you tell a business that you're working with that you'll provide big returns on their end and not be too risky? Well, by illustrating the value you create. Value creation has a broad definition, but in essence it's about trading something you value, say if you're a business, cold hard cash, for something else that's more valuable to you. In this case, the results that a high quality video can bring. Value creation really takes into account both costs and benefits, but when it comes to pitching a business and charging the rates you're after, it's really about cluing the business into the opportunity your video work creates for them to connect with customers, build their reputation, tell their story, and take in higher profit margins than ever. This is the kind of stuff that's covered in greater detail in my free online training, 10 Secrets to Video Business Success. In it, I talk through more than 11 years of business trial and error and how I hit on a formula that creates real results, which you can apply to your own video production efforts, no matter where you are in your career. You'll find a link to the registration in the description box, and I'll be on hand during the class to answer your questions specific to where you're at in your business. If you want to take a deeper dive into the business aspects of your video work, it's a great opportunity. For now, however, just work on the ideas of risk and value creation when you sit down at the negotiation table. So now let's talk about how to consistently start bringing in those kinds of rates. It begins with knowing your client, their expectations, and the value you bring to them. When is a day rate appropriate? In fact, day rates are appropriate in only a very few instances. Say perhaps a wedding, but that's not really the kind of work we're addressing here. So instead, I'd encourage you to charge based on the individual client and the individual project. For example, you wouldn't charge a mom and pop shop around the corner the same rate you charge a multi-million-dollar international company like Coca-Cola. If you charged a company like Coca-Cola $500 a day, you'd actually be grossly underserving them because such a company would have a much higher expectation about what you deliver than a small business paying the same amount. In fact, if you charge such a large business the same rate you charge a mom and pop shop, you couldn't possibly spend the kind of time and energy on the project that would meet their expectations. Here again, you must consider scope. Hourly rates and estimates can get you into the same trouble. As always, there are unforeseen technical difficulties, logistics to troubleshoot, and moments of inspiration that cost you extra time on the job. Clients might end up trying to hold you to hourly estimates, which can really keep you from delivering the kind of quality that you'd like, as well as prevent you from bringing home the kind of paycheck that you deserve. These are just some of the reasons why it matters to get a sense of the scope of the project, as well as understand the businesses you're working with, and assess the amount of time and resources you'll need to pour into the project accordingly. Using this information to guide the price you quote, instead of setting an arbitrary day rate, you'll be able to create a higher quality of work, better results, and happier clients. When you sit down to hash these details out, don't waffle, apologize, or over-explain, but instead clearly and calmly tell them your price. Since you've taken the time to explore the scope of their project and gain an understanding of their business goals, they'll already understand that there's sound reasoning behind the quote you've given. When clients are able to understand the value you're delivering, they're better able to come to their own realization about how much the work you create is really worth, which in my experience is always more than an arbitrary day rate. Actually generating pricing that accounts for all that you've invested in your career is a whole other topic that I cover more through my other programs. But I encourage you to really spend some time thinking through the years that you've poured into gaining the knowledge and experience you have. Your talent is something that you likely take for granted, but never forget that it's special and valuable. When setting your prices, take stock of your professional expertise, how you've invested in your ongoing development, and the years of experience you've put into all of your practice. When you think and plan this way, you're able to generate a meaningful price tag for your work from a place that accounts for your true value. If you want to take these concepts a step further, I'd encourage you to explore some of my other free materials I've created that will help you build the business side of your video production efforts, so you can start working on the kinds of projects you want with your dream clients while earning figures that speak to your skills. You'll find links to some of those resources in the description box below. I'll see you in the next video.